Well, hey everyone, this is Shauna Prince, and I am here for our Intentional Creativity Playshop around gratitude. So this is what we're focusing on right now. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use our Cosmic Smash Book to explore the idea of gratitude, what's it mean to you, what's in the way of you feeling it and experiencing it, what might help you to create more of it, and how to create a symbol that's going to help you identify and connect with it. So today what we're going to be using is a Cosmic Smash book. So I've also got my image here on my hand so you can see me a little bit here, but here's an example of a Cosmic Smash book I'm going to be using today. So it is a decorated art journal. There are pages in here that I've been using for various classes and so on. So you can see that they're in here. They are not meant to be perfect or fancy. They're just meant to be expressions of something that we're doing. So you do not have to be super creative or an artist to be able to do this. You don't have to be a writer or a journalist to do this. We're just going to trust our intuition and play with it. And Cosmic Smash Booking is an invention of Kat Ziegler, and it's come out of the intentional creativity world, which is really just basically what we're going ahead and creating with an intention behind it. So there's a purpose behind our creating. So it's more about the journey and less about the end result. So it doesn't really matter if you love what you create, it's more about what's the experience that you've had as you're along the way. So what we're going to be creating today is a page that's exploring gratitude. So the one I created earlier for this is an example like this. You're looking at, it's got all kinds of layers underneath it. So that's the sort of direction that we're going. Now you might create something very similar to mine, or you might create something totally different. And that is completely okay. So we're just going to practice here being messy and perfect and not worrying too much about how it's going to look in the end and really just enjoying that experience. So what we're going to start with is, so if you have a Cosmic Smash book, great. Make sure you have that. Now, if you don't and you just have some paper, you can totally do that too. Here, I've just got literally two pieces of computer paper. I just tape them together with some sticky tape. That is another option. Now, if you do something like that, or you could even use, if you had a bigger piece of paper like this, you could use this and fold it in half. It is actually kind of important in this that we do have like a left and a right part of our page. It's funny in this too, like I'm even practicing not folding it perfectly in half. All of this, it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. And then the other thing we want to make sure is that this page is not nice and flat to start with. So I'm going to encourage you, if you're just looking at a piece of paper, is to scrunch it up a bit. Because some of the page is already a little bit ruined. You can see how it's kind of crinkly, so that you're not starting off a perfect page. And I have the same thing here too in my book. I'm going to start, just pick another page in your book. Now, if you, it doesn't matter which page you pick. So we're just going to pick a double page spread like this. And we're just going to make sure that our page is nicely scrunched out. And again, it's not perfect. You can see here how this is already pushed up. It can't be ever a perfect page, so there's nothing that you can do that's to make it more wrong, right? We want to have our left brain be a little bit frustrated with us that this page is already imperfect to start off with, and so we can go ahead from there. The other thing you want to do is to make sure that you have some colored pens that you can make mark with, or you could also use crayons or pencils. That would be fine too. And then I'm going to use both some acrylic paints, some acrylics, some little ones like this, and I also have some watercolors that I'm going to use today. Now, you don't have to use paint if you don't want to, but if you have that, that would be awesome. You could also use crayons, you could use colored paper, you could use, images out of a magazine as color. Lots of different options about that. You might want some scissors and some glue. I'm going to also use a hairdryer here, potentially to more quickly dry some of the things that I'm going to be painting. And just I'm going to put your paint on, maybe make sure you've got things to keep your area protected, and paint brushes, water, all those kinds of things. All right, so we're going to get started. So with your book, the first thing I'm going to do, before we do that, also, we're going to start with writing, but we're going to just take a couple of deep breaths together. I always find sometimes when we come to this, It's like, oh, you might be rushing in your day and now you're sitting down to do this, and it can be hard to get kind of into the creative mode. So if you feel comfortable, just to close your eyes for a minute and just to take a couple of deep breaths with me. And just get your breathing to be the center of your focus. And let's just take a deep breath together. And letting it out, just thinking about everything that it took to get you here onto this recording today and to be working on this page. And then taking another deep breath and letting it out. And then there's all sorts of things you probably have to do after this, and things you could be doing instead of doing this. So anything out in the future, just letting that out, letting that go, anything that's in the future, releasing that. And then let's just take another deep breath. Just really being in this present moment here, just feeling grateful for this time that you've given yourself to be creative, this time to connect with your intuition, with your inner creative muse, just to really explore this idea of gratitude and really coming into this space here with this intention to be in service to yourself, to see what might arise from you out of this time together. All right, great. So what we're going to do now is grab a pen, or some sort of way to write. And I'm a big fan of just intuitively picking what color it is that you want to write with. So it doesn't matter what color you pick, but just go for it. So I'm going to pick a red pen here. And we're going to answer some questions here. And what I'm going to encourage you to do as you're writing your book is to write across the whole book. So all the way across, all the way across, all the way across until you get to the bottom. And then you can start filling up and I'll show you that. So essentially, you're going to write all the way across your book. You'll even write in spirals. You could write top to bottom, all the way across. And the reason that we're doing that in this mode of cosmic smash booking is we want to really integrate our left and our right brain together. So if you'd like to think about your page, that's why I had you think about if you're just doing it on some paper, that you're integrating your left and your right brain together. So we're going to answer the question here. What does gratitude mean to you? So what does gratitude mean to you? And in here, sometimes it's helpful to write the question. So what does gratitude mean to you? What does gratitude mean to me? And then you just start answering the question. Now in here, it is just free flow writing. It's hard to say. It's just stream of consciousness. It's no right or wrong way to do this. Also, this is going to get completely covered up in this. So it doesn't matter what you write, no one else is going to see it. And just start to write just for a minute here or so, minute or two. What does gratitude mean to me? I'm going to play a little music in the background here. Once you're writing, if you get stuck, you can just write the question again. You can even write the question over and over again. You can just sit with it and answering the question, what does gratitude mean to me? beginning of this thing, I am going faster than you want to go. Just go ahead and pause and just continue to keep writing. All right, so we're going to now think about a second question here. And our second question is, what is in the way of you feeling or experiencing gratitude? And again, I'm just going to pick a pen. You can use the same one. I often like to use a different color though. So I'm just going to write this down, just keep going across my page here. What's in the way of me feeling and experiencing gratitude? This could be right now in my life. If there's an end to that sentence stem that you want to use. So again, I'm just writing it across the page here and continuing writing. So we want to just keep on whatever shows up, even if it seems silly or weird, just keep on writing your answers here. What's in the way? This could be, like right at the moment, my mom is not very well. She's in hospital. It can be hard, like she's experiencing a lot of really tough times. It's very difficult to be with. So, what are some things that could be actual things in the physical realm? It could be ways of thinking. It could be ways of being. It could be other people that impact your life in some ways. It could be a stress or anxiety that you have. What are some of those things? So just keep writing, take a couple of minutes here and write. I know for me, for sure, sometimes what gets really in the way is thinking that things should be a certain way. And if they're not, it can be harder to feel that sense of gratitude when they're not the way that I expect them or that I want them to be. Or if other people don't behave the way I want them to be. Maybe this can be things in there like self-judgments, thoughts or beliefs you have about yourself. Well, this just breathing and just allowing whatever comes up to be there, just to surf it. You can pause if you want to read writing more here. So I have another question here. What I've noticed is quite a lot of shoulds that can come up in this that are in the way of feeling or experiencing gratitude fully and the benefits of having gratitude. So I'm going to ask you to notice what are the conditions, if any, that need to be in place, but what are the boundaries or limits that you have in your gratitude? So, for example, you know, I've noticed with my mom being ill, this is a present one for me right now, um, some of my gratitude can be linked to how well she is feeling or how well she did the night before or what, what her prognosis looks in that particular day. So there can be a condition there. There might be a boundary or a limit on my gratitude based on how I feel about myself and how I look, for example, or how well I did in, you know, something I was planning to do. How much water I drank, how many steps that I did that day, for example. So, what are the conditions that need to be in place for you to be grateful? Or what are you noticing around the boundaries or limits that you have to your gratitude? For example, a lot of people, I think, have, especially women, have a lot of things around how they look being a component in how grateful that they can feel. And so it's a limit. So some writing there on that. And again, you can change color if you want, or you can stay working on the same one. And as you're writing, like once you get to the bottom here, you can start just writing right over the top of what you've already done. Or you could flip, so here you could just keep writing down to here and then start again, just right on top of it. You turn your book this way and start writing. You could do a spiral. We just want to make sure that you're covering both the left and right sides of the pages. Like, do you need to be earning a certain amount of money? Do you need to have a certain number of clients if you have your own business? Do you need to weigh a certain amount? Do you need to have accomplished a certain thing before you can feel fully grateful? Or does it put a limit on the amount of gratitude you can have? Noticing in this as I'm writing too, that sometimes there can be a limit on my level of gratitude while my mother is in hospital. That actually sets a limiting factor for myself on how grateful do I allow myself to feel. This doesn't need to be neat and tidy. Messy is great. We're just scribbling it out here. If you get stuck, just write the question again. If there's another question that's arising for you that feels more important, then write the answer to that question. These are just all prompts and ideas. Conditions, limits. One that's arising for me right now is noticing uh, that I often tend to feel more grateful if I got my way with things. I got my own way. Or things go the way that I expected. What do you notice in this one around maybe your partners, your children, people in your world, your parents, people that you work with? What do you notice about the size of things? The things need to be really big for you to be grateful for them, not just like the little things like seeing a beautiful flower in the wild, for example. I have another question for you. This one feels super relevant for me right now, also for this time of the year. What can you be grateful for about the tough things in your life? The things that you're resisting or the things that are not going well? What can you be grateful for about the tough things in your life? The things that you think are hard, the things that you're resisting? Again, you can change color if you want, or you can keep going. And I'm just feeling the intention, like the thought to change this around. So, I could write sideways here. I might do that. I might just start writing sideways. So whatever your intuition is telling you to do, just go ahead and do that. So an example I have for right now is I can be really grateful that my mom she's in the hospital and that her infection is getting better, that each day she's making some progress, that she's being surrounded by staff that care about her. So even though the overall idea of her being in hospital is not something I'm grateful for, there are specific things that I can be grateful for in that tough experience of her being in hospital. And there's one particular nurse, her name's Sally at the hospital. She was my mom's ICU nurse. And for example, she came up to see my mom yesterday, like during her own break, while she's at work. I can be really grateful. Sally just came to mind. I just encourage you to be just allowing thoughts, feelings to come up. One of the things that I'm noticing, I'm staying at my brother's house at the moment, and even though I'm here for a tough reason, that I'm getting to explore really cool places around my brother's house that I've never walked before out in nature. I'm discovering just really cool hikes and places to be. I'm going to spend time at the beach and the water, which I really love, and it's really amazing for my soul and my spirit. So, what are the things um, that you can be grateful for about the tough things right now? I get to see the ocean every day, multiple times a day. I get to see positive nature I really miss. I'm going to encourage you to take another question here. And this one, I'm going to encourage you, this one's going to be a fun time. I'm going to start doing this as a spiral, my answer here. So I'm going to do it on my page here. So this is my page so far. I'm just going to spiral my writing out like this. For some reason, that feels really connected into what we're doing today. So the question I would give you, and again, if you have a different question, feel free to do it. What would happen in my life if I was filled with gratitude? What would happen in my life if I was filled with gratitude? And that if I related to myself as a grateful person. It's kind of funny writing this as a circle. It's interesting. It's actually shifting how my brain is thinking about this answer actually. So just noticing, is there a different way that you want to write that might give you access to something that's different to you writing, from top to bottom? There's some ways of being that are showing up. For me, joy is showing up, peace is showing up here, love, fun, passion. What are some of the things that, don't get to show up when your life is not filled with being grateful? Stability shows up for me, new ideas, connections. It might be money that shows up, abundance. Genius might get to show up. All right, so we're just going to bring this part to a close. So just feel free to bring that writing to an end point. And you can just trust that whatever you have here is what you need right now. And as you can see on my page, it's kind of unreadable at this point. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do it like essentially like an invitation. Some people might call it like a prayer, an intention over the top, really asking for our intention to show up, for our intuition to show up, our inner muse to show up. And so in this, I'm just going to encourage you to grab a pen. And it doesn't really matter what color you choose, but ideally it might be something that you can see over the top of the things that you have there already. I might even pick a black pen just to show you a little bit better. You can just go with your intuition. And in here, where essentially you can change this to be however you want, but often I like to start with show me. You can see here, I'm just writing over the top. And again, we're going to go, so we make sure it gets on both pages. Open me, invite me, transform me. And here you're just writing this ultimately to yourself, to your intuition. It might be, you might be connected into spirit, universe, energy, nature, like whatever it is that is something that is bigger than you, something that connects us together. Even what connects us, even if you're watching this later, that connects us all together. Ignite me. I like that one in this one. And sometimes you might find these things open. Enlighten me. You can change the format, but sometimes this something me is kind of a cool way. And that show me, I think, is always a great way to start. Embolden me. And sometimes it takes courage to look at that. Connect with me. Help me. Support me. Help me be wise. So just start to think about what are some things that you might put in here as an invocation for yourself. If you're thinking about gratitude and where you want some invitation, there might be something here that's coming from me. Help me to forgive. Because enlighten me came up, but it's also kind of like this, help me lighten my load. That support me feels really strong at the moment. Help me see what I have to be grateful for. You can fill up a whole page here of things if you want, but if that feels good, then this is how mine's looking so far. This is essentially my invitation on top of this, my invitation to get some insights around this. Now, the next thing that we're going to do, now, if you have some paints, I'm going to encourage you, this could be a good time to pick it up. And I think, while I have both some watercolors here and I have some acrylics, you could put a layer of acrylic paint just right over the top of this. I think what I'm actually going to do is grab a brush here and just add some watercolor right on the top of this. Now, if you have something like crayons, you could put crayons over the top. I have some, watercolor pencils here. So you could put a layer of pencil on the top, or watercolor pencils or chalks, like whatever you have. Just going to essentially, just have to kind of cover over what's here. Okay. So just do that in whatever way makes sense to you. If you're going to use a paint color, just pick something up that sticks out to you right now. So for some reason, for me, that color is red. So I'm just literally going to put, now try not to put too much water on your page. Okay, because we're going to be keeping on working on this and we don't want it to have it be totally wet. But just start to add in some color over the top. And what you'll start to see probably is, depending on the kind of pens that you use, that it might start to smudge things down. Now, if you're having a freak out here and you want to have a copy of what you did before, take a picture of this one if you want. You can always take a picture of each of the layers if you're curious about that. And oftentimes it's kind of an interesting thing to go back later and have a look at. And I'm just going to trust that this it's kind of a dirty red color is what wants to show up here. So I'm just going to go with it and put that color in here. So we're starting to see here that, and I put some paper down here to protect my desk here. So just adding in, and if another color wants to show up, feel free to go ahead and put that. A little bit of purpley color wants to show up now, but just go ahead and add it on there. And it doesn't have to be perfect or fully covered or anything like that. Okay, so we're starting just to get, what we tend to find is we're starting to essentially activate this page with color. So this is how mine is looking right now. It's just some things just starting to cover over the color that's there, the writing that's there. Now, an interesting thing to look at is to start allowing your intuition to play here. And so if you were going to give yourself permission to make some mark that that helped you identify, like, what are some marks that are that would help express what is in the way of feeling grateful. So again, this is kind of a weird question, but if you just allow yourself just to trust, what are some marks? So you can use a brush for this. You could help this to dry a little bit. You could use crayons, pencils. You could use a big marker if you wanted to do that. What are some marks that might help you help express what it's like when you or there's something in the way of feeling grateful, or you can't feel that gratitude. Now, if your page is a little bit wet to do this, you can always grab the dryer out to do that, or just hit pause for a few minutes and let your page dry, set it outside for a few minutes. So I'm just going to go ahead here, and again, I'm going to use some watercolors here, but you could use acrylics or, pretty much any material. And I noticed, like, for example, it's kind of this dirty looking brown color, and it wants to show up here as some question marks. So I'm just going to go ahead and do these kind of dirty brown question marks on my page. And I don't know why that's showing up, but that's what I think about what's in the way. Oftentimes I think I need to know all the answers, or I have too many questions, then I can't be grateful in that moment. I'm going to just paint those on there. So again, just take a few minutes here, put some more music on, and let's paint some marks, or draw some marks. You have different marks. You can, if something else is showing up, what else might show up as something that's in the way? It doesn't have to make any sense. My triangle shape is now showing up, kind of like, where do I put myself away from other people? have something like it gets stuck inside this. I don't want to conk it out. Just taking another minute or two here. We're just going quickly, not thinking it too much. They don't have to be actual symbols of something. It can be squiggles or dots or shapes. So those are some of the marks that are showing up for me. Some question marks, these triangles with circles like they're contained, some X's. It's kind of what's showing up for me so far on this one. All right, so again, if your page is too wet, you can stop and pause this for a minute or get your hairdryer out and dry it. I'm going to keep going. So now I want to shift gear and I want to look at the idea of what would be some marks that would represent gratitude or the feeling of gratitude. Like for me, some of those feelings that were showing up in my writing, joy and peace and love, some of those sorts of things. So what are some marks that would represent that gratitude or that feeling of gratitude? So same process again. Let's see what shows up there. You might want to change mediums here. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to cover this layer over again. So you don't need to be precious about it. You don't need to, it doesn't need to look good. But these kind of spirally pink things want to show up right now. I'm noticing that they want to kind of go over the other question marks and things, like this yellow kind of wants to come on. You can even put it straight on your page if you want. You can just my invitation would be don't go too crazy with the amount of paint that you have, just because it can slow down the process of drying. These swirls. Across the page. And these bright yellow tick marks want to come in here. I'm not really sure what they totally mean, but my intuition is saying it's funny. If I just ask what do these mean, what my assistant said to me is that even though there are things that I think are wrong about like I wish it was different, that there's actually something to be discovered, to be learned, like it's all okay, even if something isn't the way that I expect it to be, like that it's correct for me in some way, or it's part of my learning. So just going fast here and having some fun with this. Like we're adding some energy and we're really aiming to unlock something here. So this is where mine is at so far. Circles, spirals, check marks. 8 here for a second.
I am resilient. I trust the movement. I negate the chaos. Uplift the negative. I'll show up at the table again and again and again. I'll close my mouth and learn to live.
If you need more time, you can always pause for a minute here and do whatever it is that you want to do to keep going. The main thing is you want to keep going quickly in this. All right. So we've got some layers here. We've got our layer of writing, we've got our intention over the top. We're now starting to look at what are some marks that are showing up around what um, what's in the way of feeling that gratitude, and then what are some marks that represent that gratitude when we're feeling that gratitude. So now they're here, and we're actually going to lock them in with another color. So in this point here, you could do something like you could grab, if you don't have it, you could grab a couple of images, so I got this off the plane. Yeah. There might be some, it's funny, even like this image is kind of interesting with this eyeglasses. So you could cover this page with some images, some photos using glue, and just quickly looking through, what are some images in a magazine, for example, that might be inspirational to you. If you're feeling about gratitude, oh my gosh, look at that, like Como. Beautiful images that could literally go straight down onto these 2 pages and just cover them up. You could put colored paper down. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put some white paint on it. Now, because there's some colors underneath it, it's going to end up maybe with something kind of interesting. So I'm literally just going to dump some paint onto this page and see what shows up. So again, we just want to cover this whole thing over. And notice if you again have any concerns with doing this step, it's completely okay and normal. Just take a picture of it. And part of this is just letting go of what's underneath it. All right. So again, we don't want our page to be too wet. So just going to paint here right over the top of this whole thing. And you can see here already some of those colors are just kind of coming through actually. And I'm not going to try and do this beautifully. You might still see some of the writing that's underneath it coming through. We're just going to quickly get that color down over the top. And if you're using paint, you might want to use your blow dryer again. It's interesting sometimes to see what words still actually show through when you put paint over the top of them. I'm just using white here because it's kind of an easy blank canvas. But if you want to pick a different color, have at it. You want to have multiple colors? Go crazy. We're just trusting that our intuition knows what needs to be done there. And for this, I am just going to again get my dryer out and dry this page that I have. So this is how that first layer ended up working for me. So you can see actually some of the prayer part, well, the invocation part is under there that you can see, but most of the writing is actually kind of covered over. So it's interesting to see what actually showed up. And the bottom part is kind of a bit rainbowish in some ways, which is kind of cool. So depending on where you're at, you may, as I said, you might have photos on here, you might have other things like whatever is showing up for you. We're now going to create something on top of this. So this is like looking for, out of everything that we've looked at so far, we're looking to generate what is a symbol or like an image that is inspirational to you, that reminds you of gratitude, that's giving you access to gratitude. So there are some ideas here. One thing when I was looking at this class, I was doing a little bit of work around what are some examples of symbols for gratitude. And some ones that really showed up were hearts, in particular green hearts. The color pink is often associated with gratitude. And then also there's a very cool kind of symbol for um, gratitude, which I hadn't actually seen this before. So I'm going to just show you an example. Um, Let me just get this here. Just going to get it on my screen, and I will show you. And before I do that, actually, just to save a little time here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another layer on here. When I did this before, as I was preparing, like the image of a heart really came up for me, and there's this idea of either a green heart or a kind of pink heart. So I think what I'm going to do is just so that we have a little bit of drawing time here. I'm just going to draw a really simple heart with my paint here. Now you could do this with pens. You could get some colored paper and cut out a heart. I'm going to just use the center of the book here as the midpoint of this heart. So it's on both sides. Because again, it doesn't have to be, exactly the same on each side, but we do want to make sure that we're we're kind of going over the dividing line here. So I'm just literally painting a very simple heart here. If you get stuck on like drawing this, just look up, a heart line drawing on Google. You'll probably see some easy things that kind of show up. And the fun thing about putting another layer on these is that it does actually give us some more interesting kind of layers to work with. Right, and I noticed today, like I just want to have kind of a really rough edge on mine. So I'm just going to do a really rough edge. Somehow one of my hairs has gotten stuck in here, so now there's a bit more of my DNA is in there, which is interesting. So here we've just got a very simple heart, just a very simple heart. And you might want to draw a big circle, would be another option here, or just another shape that is showing up for you as being important. So I'll just show on the screen here an example of a symbol for gratitude. And you do not have to use this, but here's one example of a fairly traditional symbol of gratitude. And so while our heart or circle or whatever shape it is that you want to use as a basis is drying, I'm going to encourage you that we're going to just practice drawing this symbol here. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to do a beautiful, job here. This is not about getting it perfect. I was just playing before and drawing this symbol. Hopefully you can see that with my hands here. This is just a really simple example of it here. So what we're going to do, if you've got one of those spare pieces of paper we talked about before, just grab a pen. Now, for some reason, this hot pink was showing up, and I guess maybe that is a color that is often associated with gratitude. And so we're just going to practice drawing this spiral. Now, you don't have to do it big. You could do it small to start off with. So if I was just going to draw it on this, for example, I'll do it actually big so you can see it. Okay, so essentially we're drawing, we're going to be drawing a spiral and then ending with a hook and with these 3 dots, and then we're going to put 5 dots in the center. So we just start with a spiral, spiral again, hook, these 3 dots, 5 little dots here. And now you can do this thicker. Once you get the basic line there, I think it's easier to start out with it being kind of a thinner line. And you can add some more bulk to this. So again, I just encourage you like not to be overly perfectionist about it. Doesn't matter if like your mind decided to almost join the other one, that's totally fine. You could do this with paint if you want to do this. Just thicken up these outer edges. And if you want, you can cut this out and put it into your book, or you can paint directly onto it. So there we have just a really basic symbol of gratitude. So again, at this point, you could take this, here we've just got a very simple one. You could cut this out. Well, that's kind of cool. I've got like a little under version of it too, to put onto your page. Or you could do that directly onto the shape that you have. What do I want to do? So I will put a link in for this particular symbol so you can take a look at it. So let's stop sharing. And here's our image. And in here, the idea is that this symbol is very flowing. That if you think about this shape, This spiral can go on forever, essentially. So we've got this spiral sort of center. We've got these three dots at the end, which are like a dot, dot, dot into the future, for example, rebirth, cycle of life. And and then it could also be the concept of maybe like a mathematical thought or an infinite list. It's just that things can be infinite essentially in that, the three dots. And then the hook at the bottom here, it can represent strength, energy, and abundance. And that, emotional strength and energy. So I'll put a link in if you want to learn a little bit more about that. So I've got my heart here, and I think what I'm going to do, hmm, I could put this directly onto the page here and cut it out, or I could just paint directly onto there. I think what I actually want to do is to paint it directly onto this heart shape. So you could do that. You could cut this out and stick it on. You could do something different. You could, if you have a circle, you could paste this on top of it. You could make multiple shapes of this symbol around this shape, like whatever is floating your boat right now. We're just going to encourage you to trust yourself and to go ahead and do that. So again, it doesn't need to be perfect. In fact, if it's a little bit less perfect, since my heart's so far here, even better. I'm going to hit this with the um, blow dryer for a minute just to be a little bit more dry when I add the next layer. Sometimes if you're putting wet paint on top of wet paint, it can get a little bit muddy. So that would just be my little word of warning if you're going to be doing that. Now, if you've painted this layer, you could add a different type of material on top. You could add crayons or pencils or, lots of different sorts of things you could put on top of it. You might want to make sure it's a little bit dry before you go ahead to the next stage. So I'm just going to mute for a second while I'm drying this page. So in all of this too, now if you're you can freehand things if you feel that, confidence to do that. I'm always a big fan of just doing that and just being with whatever messiness might be showing up there. Or you could always take a pen or a pencil and just do a light line and then go from there. I think what I'm going to do is I think this is probably close to dry enough. I'm just going to draw it straight on there. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball that and then just see whatever shape shows up. Okay. I was going over the page here. I'm just gonna go up here. I'm just going to color this in with my pen. You could be doing this with paint if you'd rather do that. As you know, I'm a fan of things being a little bit messy. We're definitely not going for perfect here. Just making my line thicker here. If there's a different symbol that you want to use, like have at it. I'm kind of combining two symbols here. If you have a different one that, lends for what you want to be showing up as your symbol of gratitude, then feel free to draw that one. Or do something completely different if that's what you want to do too. I draw a little 5 dots on this one. And do my 3 dots on this one. And dot, 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 what's next? So that's the symbol there on top of my green gratitude heart. And then feels as though like the edges of my heart want to have some more definition and boundary. So I'm just going to add some more in there. Just going to use some colored pens here. Now there may be something that you want to do if you think about embellishing your page here. You might want to put a black line around your whatever your design is. Another thing that's kind of fun to do often is to actually kind of to have the symbol show up more is to add a bit more paint around it. So I think I'm going to do that here. And I'm going to add some more paint to the edges. And it's going to help to make the heart really sort of stand out a bit. I'm going to fade this background a bit. And some of the words will still show through and just pick whatever color again that you want to do. But I suggest if you're wanting it to kind of stand out, maybe pick a lighter color. You can fade it out if you want. Mix some a little white in there. You can have a creamy color before. Just gonna do a bit more stark. You can see my heart is not all even. That's totally fine. I was gonna say too, if you're feeling drawn to have other images onto this, I was playing around a little bit earlier looking for potential images that might represent gratitude. So this is just how that you can see that this is now, you can see that the heart kind of sticks out more because I put some white there. So if you have some images that might represent that, this could be a good time to add in some images. I pulled some before. I'm just going to see if any of those actually want to go on the page here. They don't have to. But other, it's funny. This one showed up for me with these hot air balloons, and for some reason, yeah, these balloons are so cool. I think I want to add some balloons to this page. So I'm going to go ahead and stick those on. And like you might, oh, and I picked out like this ad. It says unleash your creativity. For some reason, that wants to be on this page. So I'm just gonna like just kind of roughly cut it out. Now, if your page is wet with paint, oftentimes paper will stick to it. But if it's not, just go ahead and glue it on. So I'm not going to overthink this. I'm just going to stick it on there. I'm staying on a beautiful part of Australia at the moment, the Northern Beaches, and feeling a ton of gratitude. I grew up in this area, just feeling a ton of gratitude for um, spending some time here, and I really want to spend more time in this area in the world. So I'm just gonna throw a picture of it on here. Didn't know why that particular image jumped out at me, but my hunch is, my intuition is that I will be spending more time here, and wonderful things about that. So again, I'm just going to give you some time here. Let's spend about 10 minutes or so and just add or embellish in whatever way it feels appropriate to you. You might want to add the word gratitude to this. You can see on this other version I did earlier, um, added the word gratitude on there, added some smiles and some other things. So, and you can see I did this before and it came out totally different. So, however you want to do it. So, in this case, I'm going to add some of these photos of things that I feel grateful for, or they want to add more, create more of it in my life. So, I'll put some music on and let's go ahead and just embellish our page. One thing, your page doesn't have to end with the shape that you have. You can always extend off the edge if you want. You don't know, like if you're looking at images, why something is showing up for you, like some particular words or images. So just trust yourself. If it's meant to be on a page, um, throw it on your page and you'll see. Oftentimes it comes to you later why it's meant to be there. It doesn't feel neat and tidy. Doesn't have to make sense. Right. So I'm in quite a construction mess here. And you can keep going, like once you get going in this sort of process, like you have the time, keep at it and see what shows up. Now, as I said before, I had created a page for this before and it was a little bit more simple. This is the one I did before. So you can see this one here, right? Just a gratitude symbol and the screen heart. And then this is where it showed up today. So this gal wanted to be on the back of this page. And my page decided to expand. So here is my heart, my gratitude in the center here, the gratitude symbol. And then it decided to grow wings. So I had drawn two of these other symbols. So now they're underneath it. And um, these are just some pages, some that I ripped out before and some I just ripped out now with words that are showing up for me as things that I'm grateful for, things that I'm calling in, like I'm calling in the idea of doing retreats this year, probably in Australia actually doing retreats. Like all this around my creativity and art and being near the beaches and this, the balloon thing. I think it's probably about freedom and aliveness. Being in this area around the beaches here, unleashing my creativity, growing stuff around my relationship, my life sparkles and travels. And then on the back of this, which is interesting, I had the United Travel magazine and the map wanted to be in here on the back. So now the map is on the back of this thing and just kind of showing this connection between where I'm in Australia right now and where I live normally in Portland and just that connection and that bringing that global element in. So it's interesting that this page became really quite a large page built off these symbols for gratitude. Kind of interesting. So I will just also hold this up to the screen here. A little hard to show you, but you can see how this became a really quite a large thing. And here's my map here on the back. Here's this gal filling out here on the back here. So these pages are going to fold in eventually. So I'm going to do a bit of folding to get them to stay inside of our book, but essentially it's going to be contained in there. So that's what showed up for me in my gratitude practice today. So I would love to see if you want to share what showed up for you and post, but just, my encouragement always in this kind of intentional creativity practice is just to see what showed up in the moment, what attracted you, what symbols, what shapes, what colors, what words, what images, whether you use photos or not, what symbol did you create? What colors did you use? Can you see words coming through? I can still see what does gratitude mean to me. My first question there. The word navigator, I don't know what that means here on my balloons, but perhaps that's here for me to find out. Me calling. It's so interesting. Me calling showed up here. Am I calling myself? So, yeah, just really, really fascinating. So, thanks for playing along with me. And if you want to create and share, I'd love to see what you generate. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thanks so much. Feeling a ton of gratitude for everyone connected into this.